Hi, I'm Kim Stevens here in the Fox 26 Newsroom. One of the things that is often advised for many of us getting together with family around the holidays is to gauge, how are mom and dad doing? How are grandma and grandpa doing? How are other members of our family doing in terms of their health, but also maybe their cognitive health? And maybe we need to start as a family having conversations about next steps. But then sometimes that next step all of a sudden is right there, and you're wondering, what in the world do I do? And it is an emotional, chaotic wreck of a time. But it doesn't have to be. Kim and Mike Barnes have gone through this and are here to give you kind of 5 steps to learn how to be the caregiver or get the right caregiving for your parents. Kim and Mike, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us. We're glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to be here.
You came upon this topic. Was it with you, Mike, first with mom?
It was first with my mom, yes.
Yeah, I kind of laugh. I kind of laugh when you say that, because this was really all sort of kind of accidental, because we just found ourselves in this situation ourselves and thought, wow, if we're this overwhelmed, probably other people are too.
Yeah.
Right. Well, what were you feeling? What was the situation?
Well, I was very, I guess you could say, overconfident about things, because I thought I have a very close family, and my sister and I had talked to my dad several times about my mom and her problems having Alzheimer's, and that she'd need to go to memory care eventually. So I thought, well, this is going to be easy, because we know finances, we know the POA stuff, we know everything. It's going to be nice and easy. It's like picking out an apartment when I was in my 20s. So let's just find a good memory care place for mom. And my sister and I went to 4 different memory care places one day up in the Dallas area where my parents live. And I thought this was going to be easy. Got in there, and I was so overwhelmed because they were talking a different language. I didn't know what they were saying, what words they were using, but being a proud man, I said, okay, yeah, we're good. Great.
And instead
and I came straight home into this room, and I said, Kim, we need to help people, because I felt very confident, and now I'm overwhelmed. So most people are probably really overwhelmed.
Yeah. So you two, in beautiful fashion, with your background in news and social media, created a Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we just thought, what would be a great way to be able to see if people are interested in being part of this conversation. So we created the Parenting Aging Parents Facebook group. And then over time, we also thought, okay, what can we add to the conversation rather than it just being, just a place for people to vent or share, if you will. We thought, well, as our experience as former journalists, that we could do interviews with experts in the senior industry to help people know all those questions that you don't even know to ask about Medicare and Social Security and hospice and legal information that you need, and downsizing and moving. And there's just the Alzheimer's, dementia. How do you talk to people with dementia? There's so many topics that we don't even know that we don't know. And we thought, okay, well, we can do that. So that's when we built out the website, and all of those are available for free as well.
And what a gift. If we can make some of these decisions or have these conversations when our emotion isn't just pouring out of us at the same time,
Yes.
we can probably make it's better. It's easier.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. And what I always like to say is, unfortunately, the crisis is going to come for all of us. It's going to come eventually in some form or fashion. But what can we do to lower that crisis level? And the more prepared we are, and basically through communication, it helps immensely.
Okay. Well, let's bring mom and you, Mike, into the picture, because, gosh, we get into this and we talk about the emotions, and this is how we think of mom, right?
Yes.
When we were a child, and she was the one caring for us.
Right. And now it's kind of reversed. And it's hard for me because my mom doesn't recognize me. She hasn't said my name in years. She doesn't know who I am. Over the last couple of years, she's at times thought I was her brother, at times thought I was her husband, at times thought I was her dad. And now she just thinks I'm some guy who comes to visit her every month or so.
Well, at least it's a nice thing, though, in that it's not a caustic thing.
True. Yeah, sure. But I have to just take the attitude that I'm going to make the most of my time with my mom, get her to smile, talk about things, even though we talk about the same things over and over and over. It's still, I can get her to smile and laugh, and when I leave, she always is happy.
Oh, which ends up probably filling your heart rather than hurting it.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, Kim, what about you? Let's take a look at you and your mom. Nice haircut, by the way, Kim.
Bangs still look kind of the same, but uh,
You wear bangs well.
thank you. Yeah,
Anyway, there's
my mom is single, so that creates different challenges just because she doesn't have, we don't have Mike's, like in Mike's situation where his dad is still handling a lot of things for his mom and his sister as well. But for my mom, I manage all of her medicine, I manage all of her doctor's appointments, and I'm kind of her tech support from another city. So she lives in a different city than I do as well. And so we just see those things. And I have to say that I get really frustrated sometimes because she has earlier stages of dementia. So her short-term memory is not great. And I have to find myself, and I get elbows occasionally from Mike, because it's really hard to learn how to communicate with her, because it is frustrating when she asks the same questions perhaps, or just doesn't remember the thing that we just talked about. And it's having to learn kind of a new way to communicate and really sort of being in the moment with them rather than thinking, okay, I'm going to teach you how to do something in the future, like you might do with a child, where you're going to potentially interject and educate, if you will, because they're going to learn, and then they'll do it the way the next time. But in this situation, it doesn't always happen that way, and I have to get frustrated. I have to catch myself from getting frustrated sometimes because she's doing the very best she can.
How do you flip the brain from just expecting mom or dad to be them, and now knowing that they're not the same one they were when you were growing up?
Yeah.
It's hard to do, and it can be sad if you really get down into the nitty-gritty and start thinking about it too much.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you just have to make the most of your situation. Every time I go to visit my mom over the last 2 years, since our daughter, who's 24, moved up to New York for a job 2 years ago, and every time I visited my mom since then, I've said, Mom, guess what? Your granddaughter, Taylor, moved to New York City. And every time she's like, she did. She doesn't remember Taylor. She doesn't know who Taylor is because of her memory.
Right.
But she always gets excited because I tell her granddaughter moved to New York City. And it excites her, and again, puts a smile on her face. And I look forward to that every single trip I take to see her, because I know the reaction she's going to have.
Yeah. That's going to make her happy. Make her smile.
As opposed to going, Mom, you don't remember that? I've told you so many times.
Right.
Don't take that attitude. Just take the positive attitude. Like, wow, Mom, enjoy this moment.
Okay, good point. Before we get into anything else, I'd like to go with those 5 tips that you're talking about, and we can write them down so that it can help us know and navigate.
Yeah.
They're all conversations to have.
First thing is the siblings, especially with the holidays coming and likely having gatherings with everybody together. Have conversations with your siblings. Make sure that you're on the same page as much as possible, and figure out how you can play to the strengths of each of them personally, as well as with their relationships with your parents as well. Yeah.
If you're an only child, the good news is you don't have to have that conversation. The bad news is you have to do all the work, unfortunately.
And make all the decisions.
Yeah. Conversation number 2 is housing. Talk to mom and dad about housing. Where do you want to live? Where do you expect to live? Where do you think you can afford to live? For some people, they want to live in a nice retirement home type of place. Some expect to live with you. Some expect to stay in their house forever,
no matter what.
So what do they expect?
And then another conversation is around legal. Do they have all the legal documents that you need? Do they have wills, powers of attorney? Do they need a trust? Do they not need a trust? Do they have medical directives and all of those legal documents? Because the challenge with those is that often by the time you need them, it's too late to get them. And that can be a really critical point in being able to step in and assist.
And you need to not only know, do they have them, but where are they?
Right.
Because if there is a power of attorney and it's locked in a bank vault somewhere, it doesn't help you very much.
Yeah.
And you have to have all of those signed by your parents before they have a cognitive diagnosis, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yes. The diagnosis, from what we've learned from attorneys, we are not attorneys, but what we have learned from attorneys, just having a diagnosis doesn't necessarily preclude them from being able to sign some documents. But certainly as they go down that journey, there's a point at which they won't be able to. And that that's going to be really critical that you have that beforehand,
Yeah.
and that you update them from time to time if you need to. If Mike's dad's power of attorney still listed his mom as the primary, that would be a problem.
And only,
and
if it was only mom, it would be a
Right.
big problem.
Right.
But luckily, my sister and I are on there.
Right. So you just have to make sure that those are, that you know where that they've been done and that they've been updated or looked at from time to time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
you can easily
And
forget.
then we have
and-
number 4.
The next one is finances. You have to talk about finances. And for some families, including mine, my dad is an accountant. So finances were very, very private and personal as I was growing up. Had no idea how much money my dad had. But as they get older, you need to know what they can afford, what kind of debt they have, what kind of income that they have coming in, whether it's Social Security, a pension, or whatever it may be. Because I think one of the worst things, most embarrassing things you could do is say, Mom, Dad, I found a great independent living place for you to live in. It's only about $4,000 a month. That's going to be great. And they go, we only make about $2,100 Social Security. We can't afford that. It's like, oh, okay. Now we're back to square one. If you know what the situation is, it's going to help immensely. And I talk about my dad. He was very private as I was growing up, but now he gives my sister and me basically a spreadsheet showing money that he has, and says not to brag or to be sad or to talk about money, but just say, if anything happens to me, here's how you take care of Mom.
Yeah, because unfortunately, the finances drive so many decisions about what options are available.
Yeah.
And the 5th sounds sort of funny, but in today's world, it's passwords. Do you know
Oh, yeah.
bank account? Do you know how to get into their email to find out what bills they pay online? Can you get into their phone? Knowing some of those passwords, where they keep them, or being able to help manage them, makes such a huge difference in being able to step in and help when you need to.
Yeah. Think about if Mom or Dad breaks a hip or a leg or something, they're in the hospital for weeks and they can't do anything, but you still have to pay their bills, and all their bills come in online. Can you get into their email, get the bill, then get into their bank account without having to take the POA down to the bank to be able to pay those bills? There's so many things where you have to have that password to be able to get things done in today's world. And that just helps so much.
Goodness.
It can sound overwhelming when you hear it all at once, but it's sort of like, what can I do one step at a time? And it doesn't mean that just on, over Thanksgiving, it's like, hey, pass the turkey. And by the way, where's the POA? It doesn't have to be all at the same time, but at least it helps you start the conversations.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And then one of the other aspects to all of this is, Mike, as you were talking about your mom in a memory care location, Dad is not there with her. Here is a picture of both of them.
Yeah.
And where is he now?
He is still in independent living a couple of miles away, and he goes to visit her because he's still able to drive at the age of 86. And he goes to visit her 2 or 3 times a week. And I'm so proud of him, because the first 2 weeks after we moved Mom in March of 2021 were tough on my dad. And he's a very strong, silent type, and he was very emotional for those 2 weeks and after that. But he's gotten better and better at realizing Mom's condition, what's best for her, and that she's taken care of so well there. We actually had a scare just on Sunday, just a couple of days ago, because Mom passed out and had to be taken to the hospital. Dad goes to the hospital with my sister, and they're sitting there in a room, and a nurse comes in, and my mom says to the nurse, "Oh, I want you to meet my daddy and my best friend." And, you want to say, "Hun, I'm your husband. That's our daughter." But Dad just laughed it off and said, "Hi, how you doing? How you doing?" And just let it go. And you have to do that sometimes, basically to keep your sanity, but also to get through these tough times.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, as long as you are thinking of them and their wellness more than our own pride or memories, which is not easy, but that will be better.
Yeah.
I've heard it explained, try to be in their world. And as much as you can kind of put yourself in their world, it makes it easier. So if they say the sky is yellow, you just say, well, what shade do you notice? Or, those kinds of things where you just have to live in their world, not try to pull them into ours or keep them in ours.
Okay. Wow. Everything you've learned through a really hard trip, but we really appreciate you sharing it with us again. Parenting aging parents. And we will look for that and use you as a resource and just say thank you for all that you're sharing and helping empower other families.
Thank you. Well, we just feel like this was a subject that nobody talks about. And what we have found personally is that when we do talk about it, we can help each other, which just lessens the stress and overwhelm that we go through.
Because we know so much, but we don't like to talk about it when we get out with other people because you don't want to bring the party down. Like, oh, well, Mike always talks about his mom, not remembering him when he comes to see us. Well, that's no fun. But if we talk about it and help each other and figure out how to deal with these things, how to treat these things, it just helps so much. I compare it to having a baby, because when you first have a baby, like when Kim and I had our first one, we had no idea what we were doing, but everyone around us gave us advice, friends, neighbors, coworkers, relatives. Oh, yeah. Here's what you do with the baby. Get it to sleep through the night. If it has gas, here's what you do. All these things. But when you have a mom with Alzheimer's or a dad with Parkinson's or whatever it may be that they're having trouble with, nobody talks about it and nobody's there to give you the advice. So having someone to bounce the problems off of, to be able to get some advice, just helps everyone.
Yeah. And just to remind yourself that you've never done this before. So of course it's something that feels different and strange because we haven't gone down this road before. We're all learning.
Got to give ourselves grace.
That's right.
Kim and Mike Barnes, thank you very much for your time this morning. Really appreciate it.
Great talking to you.
It's our pleasure.
Hi, I'm Monty Torres of Fox 26 News on YouTube. Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel, where we have loads of great content for you to choose from. And while you're here, why not click on the subscribe button right here? That way you can stay in touch with all the latest breaking news, everything news related within the Central Valley. And thank you for watching.